Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 715.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant covers. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC Comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be talking about the new Outsiders series, issue number 1, and Superman 78, The Metal Curtain, number 1. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
Remember, DCB Service is not just about really cool deals on comics. They have great deals on comics, so let's not argue that. But they've got statues, they've got apparel, they've got toys, they've got, you name it, they've got it for the geeks. And it's a great place to shop and save some money. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com. As always, I love their deals of the week. And they have Batman the Dark Knight Detective, Volume 8. Regularly $29.99. 50% off, only $14.99. Danger Street trade paperback, Volume 1, $19.99, regularly 50% off, only $9.99. And Seven Soldiers by Grant Morrison, omnibus hardcover. This is a $125 book with amazing stories, 50% off, only $62.50. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Jim, I want to shout out a Kickstarter. Longtime friend of the show, Ted Sikora, is at it again with Punchline and the Vaudevillains. This is the Kickstarter for issue number 3. The cool part is it's a great catch-up one. Punchline and the Vaudevillains is a 5-issue series set in Cleveland's Hero Tomorrow Comics universe. It goes deep into the psyche of Drayton Hayes, a.k.a. Punchline, as he is challenged by the main superhero in our universe, Apama, and this brand new nemesis from Mexico, Valente the Undead. No knowledge of previous stories is required to enjoy this series, but there are rewards that bundle the entire catalog of our shared universe. So this is great. I love these Kickstarters that do this, where you can grab the issue that you're at. So like in my case, I've been getting all of these so I can get the cool cover bouquets and stuff like that, and variant covers in my award bundle. But if you have not explored this universe yet, you can grab this miniseries, the first 3 issues. You can grab the entire universe. You can grab it digitally. You can grab it physically. They have all kinds of different options for this. I give this the highest possible recommendation. We shout this out on our show because it's quality. It's stuff that we really enjoy. And I hope you'll give a chance and support it. Please, if you can, shout this out on Twitter. Shout this out on Facebook. Everyone knows somebody who this is their cup of tea. And if we can do our part to help a friend of our show to get their book, it's not with Kickstarters, it's not just about getting the Kickstarter over that hump of we've met the goal. There's also, the fact that there's add-ons and rewards and things like that come from the fact that this book has then gotten more backing for it. So please shout this out and support our friend. Mr. Segulin, without further ado, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the atom.
Our first discussion this episode is going to be of Outsiders number 1, Never the End. Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly on script, Robert Carey on art, Valentino Tadeo on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters, Roger Cruz and Adriano Lucas on the cover, John Cassaday and Alex Sinclair and Dan Mora on the variant covers, Christian Ward on the 125 variant cover, Roger Cruz and Adriana Lucas on the 150th variant cover. Jessica Burby is the editor. Ben Abernathy is the group editor. And apologies for any name butchery. I wanted to talk about this one just because we've been doing a pretty good job of trying to jump around and capture as much as we can of the dawn of DC. And this was one of those surprise books out of the dawn of DC. We had that first half of the year of the announcements of all the books that we were getting. They really have been doing a good job this year of continuing as we've been going through November and December of continuing to just have additional books coming out. Was this one on your radar? Did you remember that this was going to be a thing?
No, actually, I did not remember that. And I was actually very happy when you talked about, hey, let's do that. I'm like, oh, yeah, we got it. That's coming out. I completely forgot about it. Didn't know what team we were dealing with or anything. So it was kind of neat, opening up the page, and it starts off with Kate Kane and Luke Fox. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, and a pairing I didn't expect. I really liked the choice of the two. Considering everything that's been going on with the Bat family, I also like the fact that this is about them hitting the darker corners of the DC universe, hitting areas in the larger multiverse that actually, would impact DC. So I really like the fact that this is just a different sort of book. They're good characters. I really am a fan of Kate Kane's Batwoman. She's a character who I've really loved in her own series. I've liked her even more in team-up books, though. That Detective Comics run that you and I are both a big fan of, where she was a part of Batman's team, and there was that squad-based approach, was something I really enjoyed. So seeing her and Luke Fox together, that to me is much more of the lane I kind of want to see her in. Because she is one of those people that is a very good strategist. She's very good to be a part of a team, even though she would not describe herself that way. I think she's great on a team. I like that we're also getting introduced to new characters through this, which is interesting because there's still so many more DC characters I want to see on the playing field. But I like that this is something different. It's not about capes and cowls, but they're using their uniforms because of the fact that they provide them with tools to use in the various battles. But I like that it's not uncommon to see them, she doesn't have to wear the wig, for example, as he keeps pointing out. I like that there's no reason for him sometimes to have his mask on. It's a different sort of operating. They're not operating under normal superhero rules. This is really a covert kind of thing. First issue in, I really, really enjoyed what we were exploring here. Very unexpected.
Yeah, actually, yeah. And again, think if Outsiders, it's going to be a pretty cool book. So I'm not like, wow, I completely am shocked that this is good, but it is not what I was thinking it would be. They did, once again, they're giving us a nice little variation on the concept of the outside. This is not Teen Batman's, dirty little secret or Batman's little, his version of Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
This is a completely outside of the Bat. And I like the fact that Kate's like, hey, I don't want to be under the Bat's, under his authority anymore. She's Batwoman. And she's got a big red, bat on her chest, but she's there. A lot of stupid stuff sometimes happens in Gotham, and I like the fact that she's like, "Hey, every couple of years, there's always some type of superhero beef going on. I just want to be somewhere where it actually matters." And I like that idea, and I like that because that really fits who she is.
Yeah,
you look at her past, look at all the stuff she's done. When she first put on the cowl, she wasn't one of Batman's crew. She was doing it on her own, because she had lost so much because, she lost her whole military life, her military career, her existence. She needed something, and this was, as a kid from Gotham, this was a thing that latched on to her. And I love the beginning stuff when it was her and her father training her and, pushing her and her, him being like her, the advisor kind of, her backup. I thought that was a really neat pairing and a really great way to build the character. So you add this team with Luke Fox, who, Batwing was an awesome series, and I'm glad to see he's still around, glad to see the Armor's still around, glad to see these two are working together. It's a really neat combo, and then you add this new character, Drummer, to the mix, and you're like, okay, we got a cool story going on here. I'm digging this, man. I want to see where this goes. One issue in, I'm already at issue 2, 3, 4, and 5. I already want those issues, so I'm locked in.
One of the things I really like about Drummer is she's a cool character. And there's a mystery to Drummer. We don't know who she is, but she's got an air about her. There's she likes to talk history. She's got powers, but she's not revealing her hand. There's an interesting sort of piece to her as far as what she isn't. And I could see somebody being very tentative and very covert. She's not sure how much she wants to be involved with them at all. She's in on this mission, but it isn't until the story progresses that she becomes more and more involved on the team. And I really like that aspect of it. It makes the story far more fun.
I love the one line, where Kate's like, she's older than my mom. And Luke responds back, oh, yes, people famously get less capable over time. I love that one. That was cool.
I like that it's also exploring other DC lore. It's bringing in some stuff from Wildstorm, and that's what they're exploring, and we're bringing this stuff in organically. There's very, very cool stories that are out there throughout the Wildstorm universe, and I like they're discovering artifacts and mysteries that haven't been completely resolved in the Wildstorm universe and bringing them in and discovering them and uncovering them this way is good because it's accessible to new readers, right? This story does a great job of being a great launching point. You mentioned Kate's history. You mentioned Luke's history. They're not going through that here, and I appreciate that they're not doing that because here's what I don't need. I don't need yet again another reboot. What I do want, though, is a jump-on point. This is a great jump-on point. If you want to read those stories, they're out there, but this issue is it's Batwoman and Batwing. They're in a brand new status quo. You don't need to know anything to jump into this story. You don't need to know anything. Drummer, brand new. The Wildstorm pieces that are in here are very accessible to people who haven't read them before because it's a mystery that's unfolding here. I really liked the fact that they were introducing it that way. It was a cool part. I read. Have you ever read Planetary?
No, but it was funny because I'm sitting there going, I'm like, this is familiar. Who are these? Then I saw the Planetary. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So again, it's one of those things where after the reveal, I'm like, now I got to read that.
So one of the things I really loved about this Planetary is just a terrific, terrific story. It's available in, is it 2 Absolute volumes? I have Absolute Planetary, which that's one, I read it in Absolute format. And I thought there was 2 volumes of it. You'll have to forgive me. I've got so many Absolute editions now. But I read that a few years ago when the Absolute came out. Gorgeous artwork. There's so many ways to access Planetary now, both digitally and physically, that if you haven't read it, I can't give it a higher recommendation. But you don't need to know that. The unfolding mystery here is if you haven't read any of that, we've got this talking ship that they have activated. They're learning about this. I was a home to heroes. There were victories within me. There were friendships inside me. There were weddings in my heart. And now everyone I know is dead. You exist, they do not. And I really enjoyed this intelligence that was the ship is now really processing them and saying, hey, wait a minute. Your multiverse is made of paper. It burns with ease. I burn and I burn and I burn. And I search for the snowflake, but I am all that is left. It basically saying, it's trying to logically handle that kind of concept when it's that kind of construct. That was fun. It added a whole little mystery to this whole thing that they were uncovering it. When you realize at the end, oh my God, this is about Planetary? That was awesome, but you didn't need... Oh, well, let me ask you that. I'm assuming you didn't need to know that. I didn't really realize this was all connected to Planetary until I got to the end, and I saw the book, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what they're doing here. How cool. I didn't feel you needed to know that. Did you?
No. And again, it was one of those things that as I'm going through this, I am the carrier. I'm like, wait, this is a superhero ship, and that's when you started going through, and I didn't know Planetary, but then once you start going through that page where I was home of heroes and this and that, I'm like, and that's when it got me thinking, like, I wonder if this is like Wildstorm or something, and I immediately started thinking, Wildstorm and all that, and then looking at the bodies that, because I didn't know who the Sentry babies were, that you first encounter, and all that, and it was one of those things where I knew it was some type of hero group, a living ship. I knew Wildstorm had a couple living ships in it, and I was like, I wasn't sure which one this one was until I got to the final page where I saw a Planetary guide. I'm like, okay, Planetary. I don't remember. I don't think I read it, but I know that one. I know it's out there.
One of the characters we didn't talk about that was cool to see in this was Lucius Fox. It's so interesting, the situation with Lucius Fox and Luke Fox. They have the Wayne fortune.
Yeah.
And it's something that I enjoy, but I'm also like, I want Bruce to have this money back.
Yes, me too.
And I love these people, but I'm like, you guys got something that right now, I'm hoping the end game is somehow that Bruce gets back either that fortune or a fortune or something, because as cool as I think they are, I want that back with Bruce. As we're exploring this, do you think that Drummer is going to be a part of the team or going to be somebody that they're going to be in competition with? Or I don't know, adversary is necessarily the question. This is an interesting dynamic in this group because I could see people having a lot of agendas with what's going on here. I'm wondering what Drummer's situation here is, because the end part where she pulls out the Planetary book, that she's got it inside her duffel bag, is she is withholding that information, at least right now, from them. I don't know if she's with them or not. How did you take Drummer? Like, where is Drummer at now? Or is that just kind of like I'm feeling it, like it's this unfolding mystery that I'm intrigued by?
See, one of the things with Drummer, I was wondering, because, again, I don't know Planetary.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think, I wonder if she's a character, because I was wondering if she was a character from Planetary.
I don't believe.
And she was like one of the survivors. Is something I was wondering about. Because again, as soon as I saw Planetary guide, I'm like, okay, this is Planetary. I didn't know. I never read it, so I didn't know the details, but I knew that's what this was. So that's the first thought that I had. Now before that, I was thinking,
wait, hang on. So it's not her. It looks like there was a drummer. And that's why I'm getting confused right now. The drummer, also known as a little drummer boy, drums. So there is a drummer. The drummer gets his name from the drumsticks he carries, which he habitually taps on surrounding surfaces. So I'm wondering if this is a descendant of the drummer from the Planetary.
Could be.
So there was a drummer in Planetary. That's why I didn't recognize her. So the drummer is one of 3 members of the Planetary. He is a technopath who was saved by the team as a child and works with them. So the drummer was a character in Planetary. This is now, I'm understanding why I feel there's some familiarity here, but it wasn't her, at least as far as I know. So this is intriguing, an interesting source. So good catch on your part, actually, though, that you thought the drummer was part of Planetary. So the answer is yes.
Yes.
To a certain, even if it's a descendant, it really is a continuation of what's going on. That actually makes me more intrigued. The link to Planetary makes it far more intriguing to me.
And that, my friend, is even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
But there's a logic to what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So
my kind of logic.
So
now,
one
other thing.
Go ahead.
Here's something else I was wondering: is something wrong with Lucius Fox? Because he has the line where he's like, I'm not a field person, but you'll see me you'll see me face to face real soon. But every time we see him, he's in the communication, this and that. I'm wondering, is there something wrong with Lucius that he's not on scene?
Well, there's 2 ways to take that. Either first, the truth of the matter is he's not a field person. So let's throw that out there right now. So you could take that at face value. Going off of what you're saying, though, sometimes when you're seeing people digitally, it can turn out at some point in time it's not actually them.
Right.
So I don't know. I was taking it multiple ways. I was taking it maybe at his face value where he's like Charlie and they're the angels. If that makes sense. Which wouldn't be so odd. Like he's their Alfred. That would work. But you're right. There could be something else to it. If there's something wrong with him, I don't think there's something wrong. I'm hoping there's not something physically wrong with Lucius, but that could be an angle they're going for here too. It also could be somebody else pretending to be Lucius, although the father and son relationship between the two of them certainly felt pretty natural. I will be honest, while I'm with you that I was seeing potential for other possibilities and wouldn't be shocked if there were, I was more taking it as he's really working remotely because Lucius Fox, what business would he have being there?
Right. Yeah, I know, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm thinking that it is Lucius. He's just not a field guy, and I'm like, okay. But again, that you always have those nagging feelings in the back of your head that you're like, let me just say this, even though I don't think it's true. But what if? And that's the thing with him. I was thinking it was somebody else pretending to be Lucius, and maybe Luke knew it was someone pretending to be, but not letting Kate know that it's not Lucius. Because that's where that's where my head was at. And I'm trying to figure out who would be the mystery person. And I think I'm reaching on there, so I think it is actually Lucius, but. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a big reveal. Dun, dun, dun. It's not actually Lucius.
The artwork, I want to really compliment on the artwork on this piece because one of the things I really enjoyed was you're exploring in this, right? You're going on this journey. And it's a real tight book because it did what I liked in the original Birds of Prey a lot. It kept the team very small at first. I don't know how big Outsiders are going to get. I don't know what the game plan is for this book. I honestly forgot this one was coming out, which is why I wanted to talk about it because I'm like, I don't remember this one coming out. I love these characters, though, because I knew Batwoman was on the cover, and I'm like, let's talk about this one. I love her. I didn't realize this was going to be a Kate Kane Batwing vehicle, and with the potential for more growth. I hope Drummer is somehow connected with them or somehow a regular in the book just because I found Drummer intriguing. We'll see where it goes. But the vastness of the ship, right? The locations. It's important to get the characters right and intriguing and have different outfits for them that fit, like the fact that they're in cold weather and stuff like that to show that they're traveling the world and jet setting and going to weird locations and understanding that this could be financed by Wayne Tech, and even though it's not Wayne, it's Fox Tech at this point. But that kind of level of money, they can have gadgets and gizmos that would make this work. But the ship is absolutely. I'm looking at that one that says it's 50 miles long and it's about to explode. That sense of vastness was there, and that's something that artistically to capture that sense of like I would want to look at this. I would also want to get out of there. There's an interesting balance there, right? Of, it reminded me of, did you remember the Disney movie, The Black Hole?
Yes. Yeah.
There was a lot of that vibe in that. I really enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed the atmosphere of that movie. This had that kind of atmosphere in the spaceship where there was a sense of being out and even though you're inside this ship, the sense of being somewhere else. Yeah. And exploration. Exploration to me is fun in books like this. I didn't know what to expect from this. I don't know if maybe you thought this was coming. I didn't expect what we got here. This kind of, we're exploring the depths of the DCU into Wildstorm stuff with Planetary. I didn't think this was coming out of this book. I think it's way cool because I didn't. Oh, God, yeah.
Again, outsider stories that we've read in the past were always kind of cool. It was a different team up. It's kind of a team that can get their hands a little bit dirty. And it's the covert ops team for Batman, basically. Well, now we're getting rid of that whole Batman connection, and we're looking at different stuff, in the DCU. We're going to be pursuing some of this stuff. And I think in my head, I'm looking at this is going to be a vessel to pull more of the Wildstorm universe into DC proper, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I'd like to see that.
So I agree with you 100%. I hope it's not just the Wildstorm universe. But that's nodding yes at everything you just said. And my reason for saying that is one of the things I really like about this book, it just feels different. over the years, I'll use two characters as an example. Or I'll use two characters and a team as an example. So there's Bat books, there's books featuring Wolverine, and then there's X-Men, right? And when I say books featuring Wolverine, he was on the Avengers and all kinds of stuff like that. And people used to say, yet another Wolverine book, or another X-Men book, another Bat book. This does not feel like another Bat book. I think that's really critical. It's got characters from the Batman universe, but it does not feel like yet another Bat book because of what it's doing. That's pretty important, because it's got to feel fresh. Yeah, the draw is the fact that they're two Batman characters, Batwing and a Batwoman. For me, I'm a Batman guy. So you're going to put those characters in a book, that's immediately going to get me reading the book. What they're doing here that's right, though, you and I talk all the time about, just expanding the universe, reading something a little different. I like to read outside of DC books that are unique, like sci-fi or something else that is just different in comics that they're doing. A lot of the indie books are trying to tell different kind of stories. This is cool because it feels like yes, we're taking two well-known characters that we love and we want to see more of and putting them in a situation that is vastly different. Like, why would Batman be involved in this? If they ever encounter Batman down the road, cool. If they don't, I could care less, because I want to see where they go from here. And that's a victory off of this, is the fact that you've taken two characters that you clearly got me as a fish on a hook because they're Batman characters, and given me a story that does not feel anything like it has to be beholden to the Batman universe. It's a cool book.
God, yeah. And again, I'm already in. I'm all in on this one, and I want to see where it goes. And it's gotten me wanting to read Planetary now. It's gotten me, and I think, when a story catches you from jump and has you thinking, who else can get added to this team? And again, as I said, I knew Planetary, Wildstorm, that, so I'm wondering, are we going to get other Wildstorm people in there? And so my head started going through the people that I knew from the Wildstorm universe and trying to figure out some of them mixed in here. I was like, oh, that'd be a kind of a neat team here. So what's going to happen next? I don't know. And I like that. I like having a book that I can't say, oh, I think it's going to be this, and this, This one is completely wide open to me that I don't know where they're going to go with it. I know they could do a lot of cool stuff with this, and especially, now knowing that there was that drummer on the team. And so what's their connection to that drummer? Because they're very obviously connected. Because you go back to the page where she's standing by the Sentry babies and all the different skeletons. Yeah. One of them has to be drummer, and I'm going to look that up and try to figure out which one it is, because she spent a long time, right outside one of those, one of the bodies.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if she's standing outside drummer.
It's been a good few years since I've read Planetary, because I have this is making me want to. So it's making you want to read it. It's making me want to reread it. So when I say a few years, dude, I want to say whenever the Absolute came out is when I read it. We've been doing this for 17 years, and Planetary was one of the mid Absolute era books. I grabbed it because of the John Cassaday art. Really, really loved it and digested it. I've only read it once, and it's really one I want to go back and reread, because it's Warren Ellis writing. So if you're listening to this and you haven't read it, do yourself a favor and read it. As a reader, it's very dense and it's a strong read. Fun. Very engaging, very, very different. It's cool to be seeing those concepts in this. I want to reread it again based on this discussion, because this was a book that, wow, they're tapping into that. I really appreciate that they're playing with some of the toys. This is something that's interesting. If I could, Jim, one of the pieces I want to ask you, so Dawn of DC, that banner, we're heading into the end of the year, right? So we're November 30th now when you and I are recording this. That logo, when you see Dawn of DC, what does that mean to you? Is it a successful banner? Is it an exciting banner? Is that a book that you gravitate towards because it has that on it? Where are you at with Dawn of, what do you think, has this been successful? Or has it been, What is Dawn of DC to you?
For me, it's been very successful. I've really enjoyed this stuff, and I see the banner on a title, and even if it's something I'm not going, I don't know if I want to read that, I'm going to read it. I'm going to give it a read. I'm going to give it a try, just because they've been hitting it out of the park on so many of the stories that I'm like, this could be something really cool.
Yeah.
They've had a couple that I'm like, okay, that was cool. That was good. I don't know if I need to read more of it, but I read the series. That's kind of cool. Awesome. But they've had a couple where I'm just like, I need more. Feed me more, see more. Give me more.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that piece. This has been a successful initiative, and not every initiative is. I mean, there's initiatives that have hits and misses. And if I have blinders on, Jim, correct me on this. I'm having trouble finding a book that has made me feel underwhelmed in the Dawn of DC. I feel like they haven't gone crazy on what they've been releasing under this banner. And I feel like every new thing, whether it's a mini-series, I feel like the mini-series have been appropriately mini-series. They felt like this contained story that was like fleshing out the universe. The ones that have been ongoings have been really unique and interesting and good choices to be ongoings. I'm going to be very, very curious to see where Dawn of DC, does Dawn of DC end in December and next year there's something else? Or does this branding continue into next year? I don't know. But for me, the Dawn of DC has been. Has there been anything to you that's been underwhelming that has had that banner on it?
I wouldn't say anything underwhelming. I think the worst I've ever had on anything is I read it, I enjoyed it, but I'm not going, I want more.
Yeah,
I think, but I can't even say underwhelming because I've enjoyed reading it. I was like, that was a cool story, but I'm okay. I don't need more. I think that's probably the worst I've ever had on any of the Dawn of DC stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I'm drawing a blank on even giving you a name of a title that I could say it was this. So not like something something stood out so bad that I didn't enjoy it.
Can I ask you for some clarification on what you're saying? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. When you're saying you didn't want more, did that mean that you didn't want beyond issue 1? Or you didn't want more beyond the end of a mini-series or the end of, wherever that story continued? And there's no right or wrong answer to that, Jim. I'm just more curious to see where you're at.
No, beyond the end of the miniseries.
Okay.
So I read the miniseries, and I liked it. And I'm like, okay, that's a good story, but I don't need more. I'm like, that's good. Okay, cool. Thanks. And I don't have to move on. I don't need more. Give me more. But, and again, I'm even drawing a blank, and...
I agree with you, though. I actually think one of the things that you're saying that's really strong, Jim, I felt the ones that were miniseries had a good beginning, middle, and ending. I was really glad that they were there and they fleshed out the universe. If they came back with a sequel that had some, they're like, I have a story to tell that's going to be, 2.0 of this particular miniseries, great. But there was nothing where I was like, I felt like the miniseries needed to be a miniseries because that was the story they were telling there. And I appreciated that. I appreciated knowing that it was part of the tapestry that they were crafting with Dawn of DC. Is that kind of where you're at?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, nothing that I would ever say was bad. I don't have anything that I'm going to say is bad, but I think the worst judgment I can give on it and some of the stuff was, okay, I read the series. It was neat. Okay, what's next?
I wish I'd heard more. I don't hear a lot of buzz around this, and I wish I was hearing more. And the reason being, so there's all kinds of different reboots that have happened over the years, relaunches, whatever you want to call them. These are all jump-on points, creative points. What I loved about this was it wasn't yet another reboot that was giving me origin stories. Enough already. What I want is new status quos, so for Batwoman and Luke Fox in this story, for example, brand new status quo, something interesting and exciting from them. I don't need to have known what happened in their last arc to enjoy this. Because it's been a while since I've read, those characters. Other than the fact that, there were appearances in recent Batman crossovers and stuff. Okay, cool. But knowing that, I can jump on this one and go, okay, these are two people that just kind of want to separate themselves from the whole Batman thing, and yet they're now on these missions that involve, it's got this weird kind of sci-fi James Bond, intrigue and espionage that is really cool. That's something that feels different to me. I really appreciate the fact that this book feels like it adds something to the universe that I wasn't reading before. This has been a good time. This was a good read. I'm glad we did this one because it was surprising.
Look at those strange little beetles. They look... Great neutron!
Our next discussion is going to be Superman 78, The Metal Curtain, number 1 of 6. Written by Robert Venditti. Art by Gavin Guidry. Colors by Jordi Belair. Letters by Dave Lamphere of A Larger World. Cover by Gavin Guidry and Jordi Belair. Variant covers by Wilfredo Torres and Jordi Belair, Doug Braithwaite, Adrian Guierrez, Gutierrez, and Luis Guerrero. Edited by Andrew Marino. And group editor is Katie Kubert. Superman, of course, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. Apologies for any name butchery. This is what I was hoping for when they did the last Superman 78 miniseries, that we'd get another one and it would feel film-like. This feels like a continuation of the film universe. I adore these as miniseries. I never want this to be an ongoing. And The reason, it's strange to say that, but if they keep crafting these as periodically we'll get these miniseries that feel like the next movie, and they're really well done, Venditti gets How to Rate Christopher Reeve's Superman. This is fantastic. I loved it. The first issue of this, I loved every minute of this. We're now exploring what these films would have done if they'd logically continued. They would have explored more and more of the DC lore, but in the way that Superman with Christopher Reeve would. I loved those films. I watched them over and over again like comfort food. This was comfort food for me. And I don't know if you had the same, you and I think had the same love for this. What was this like for you?
Dude, man, I absolutely love this. And again, Robert Venditti, I agree with you. He completely knows how to write Christopher Reeve's Superman, but he also has the other characters down.
Oh, yeah.
He's got Lois so perfect. That I can hear her voice. And actually, I hear all their voices throughout this. The moments when he's Clark Kent, well, golly gee, Mr. White, and Lois, you really shouldn't be out that late, and just the little stuff that I can hear his voice doing it, and then even her fluctuations when she's gagged and she's like, she yells Superman while gagged. I can hear her voice yelling it. I'm like, yes.
And that was really well done because it felt like it was set in that universe. And that's something that was really, really important to me is I want to feel like, I mentioned it felt like comfort food and coming home and things like that. That's exactly what this felt like for me. That's a hard piece to pull off when you're doing a universe like this, right? Because we're all Superman fans. Christopher Reeve, when he passed, he'd been doing some great episodes of Smallville, some of my favorite of all time of that show. Margot Kidder had done some great episodes of Smallville. These characters, these actors meant something to me. To be able to jump in and feel like a film, because this starts off and it cooks, right? We got this something happening from, there was the explosion of Krypton, the continuation of that as it lands, one of the kryptonite rocks lands in Russia, right? We're then back to decades later in Metropolis, Lois being thrust into some sort of event. It moves like the movies do, right? There's not wasted space. They keep cooking from thematic movie scene to thematic movie scene. And that's a hard piece to capture as well. It's not just capturing the voice, which I think you're nailing on. These characters are they've gotten them all perfect. It's also capturing this feeling of a film, cinematic, that kind of approach. Pacing is really critical in this, and it felt like the better Superman movies. That's something that was really important to me.
Big time. Big time. And again, one of the things I always did love about the movies is they really did capture a good Lois Lane in that. She's that independent, strong-willed woman that, once again, whenever there's a Lois Lane and Lois and Clark story, a Lois and Superman story, you gotta believe that this man with godlike powers would be in love with this woman.
Yeah.
And you see her strength. You see how she's pursuing the story, and she's made a little mistake there, knocking over the can, and that's it. But Lois didn't whimper and back down. She's like, "Hey, this is a big mistake for you," and she's throwing it out, and she's being Lois Lane. She's not, it's not until she realizes her boat's about to run into a boat that she yells out to Superman. She's trying to figure out her ways to get out of there. If they had done thought bubbles, she would right now be thinking, okay, how do I get out of that? How do I pick this lock? How do I get free? She wouldn't be thinking initially, I need Superman to rescue me. I love how she waited until that moment, and they captured it brilliantly in the artwork, where she's like, got the big wide eyes, and just as she realizes, I'm about to run into the side of that boat. That's when she reaches out. That's when she calls for Superman, and of course he's there to save the day. It was again, perfect moments in the movie.
The thing that I love is the Chief too, because the Chief is a very important character to me from that universe, and the fact that he's having that relationship. He's like, "What are your sources, Lois? I can't run a story about the U.S. Army engaging in illegal arms sales when all I've got is my own reporters' eyewitness accounts." I really love that he's that newsman, that journalist of saying, "Hey, look, you need more than that for me. I want this to be everything that you're saying it is, but it's got to be that piece." He's pushing it and guiding them, so that way we've got something that puts us on the map and is defensible.
Yes.
The pieces with the cream and the mixture of humor with the cream and sugar and the coffee and stuff like that totally mixes with the films. That's really important. There's a right balance in this of that humor that I really loved in those Superman films without going hokey. And I think the better ones of those films had that piece of Clark being kind of the bumbling reporter, but yet showing that he does, as the movies went on, he brings something to the table as well, even though he's that G. Lois, kind of golly gee whiz, kind of farm boy kind of piece. He did advance as the movies went on. This series is continuing to advance Clark Kent as well. And that's a piece that I really, really enjoy is these aren't just nostalgia pieces. They're progression in that world. This is, we've now gotten Superman, 5, and now Superman 6 with this. If this is the kickoff for Superman 6, boy, I'm very confident that this 6-issue miniseries is going to be very satisfying and a satisfying feel of Superman 6.
It's funny. Another scene that I absolutely loved, another Lois scene I love when Clark goes, Lois, who wants you to give up the story? And she's like, exactly. That right there, again, that's another right from the movie. I could see her doing that, and I can hear her voice, and I can see just how that played out. And it's a perfect Lois Lane moment.
It's funny, as we keep going back to Russia, I was not sure where this was going. I thought first, are we going to Red Sun Superman or something like that? Like, what are we doing with this and where we're going? I did not see this being a Metallo story. And
no, not at all.
And that's what I loved about it, was the fact that we see the suit being crafted, and they took me to a place, they're doing a unique version of the Metallo storyline, because why? This is that universe. This does not need to follow exactly what the DC universe does. Metallo's a great character. I love that they didn't force themselves to go along with what was traditionally done before with the Metallo character.
And again, this fits this time period.
Sure does.
Think back to 78, 80s, the U.S.-Russia Cold War, full effect, This kind of stuff, 100% could see it. And I completely could see them looking as Superman as just this American capitalist, and just the evil in the society. We've got to take him down and show Mother Russia is superior. I love just that notion, and even because, again, they're going back to the truth, justice, and the American way. We'll get them. We'll show them what Russia can do. 100% all in on this. I was like, oh, this is outstanding. This is absolutely outstanding. And then add to it that we will call you Metallo. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. Because initially I was just thinking it was going to be some kryptonite-powered armor. Yeah. I wasn't thinking they were actually going to call him Metallo. because Metallo's got his defined origin, and it's, the Lex Luthor kind of thing going on. No, they're doing this version of Metallo, and I'm all for it. And again, just looking at the armor looks cool, and something weird is going to happen that's going to mutate or somehow fuse to his body, and Superman's going to help try to save him, as opposed to just kill him. But there's going to be that great fight, and there's so many stuff I am looking forward to where this goes that I'm excited for this. This is another one of those things where I'm like, yes, thank you for more. I want it.
It's funny part is he says it's harmless to us, but for him poison. What happens when you're wearing it in a suit? What does that do to a human being? That's something that's going to be very interesting. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens, because that was really what was keeping him alive in the comics. Where is this going to go with that story?
I think we're going to get something like that. Because you think back to with Lex for a while there was walking around, in the 80s, was walking around with that kryptonite ring, and he ended up getting poisoning from it. I think we're going to get the same kind of thing going on with this Metallo, and it's of course going to be Superman who saves him, because even though the guy was just trying to kill him, he's still, he's not just the American hero. He's everybody's hero, and those are the Superman moments I love, and those are the moments that Christopher Reeves just completely just brings always to the table for me. So to get the potential of that story coming out with this cast and crew, I'm all in on it.
So Colonel Everest, who actually winds up being the Russian spy, I really liked how that played out, because I did not see that coming. And I liked when it made sense, right, in the story. You could see how, he's burning now the outfit that he was wearing during that point in time, and we get to see who he actually is. That part was very, very cool, because it felt, again, very cinema-like, and it moved quick. There's a lot that happens in issue 1 of this that's moving along scenes. It very much feels like storyboarding for a film.
Oh, big time.
The artwork's fantastic too. It's interesting. Like usually with these Christopher Reeve type stories, I prefer when you get closer to you get those artists that are able to do ones that are almost realistic and identical to what Christopher Reeve looked like. I didn't need that from this. They gave it. It was close enough without it being exact. I appreciated when we see the establishing shots of Moscow, USSR, and things like that. Beautiful landscape sequences. And the characters are very, very well drawn. Thematically, they are close to what I would expect from the movies, but not picture perfect. And that didn't bother me any. I actually appreciated the artwork in this.
Well, actually, and to go along with something like that, there are moments that I actually, looking at the artwork, I can see them have that face. Like when Superman scoops up Lois, the smile on his face.
Oh yeah.
Now his face doesn't look completely like Christopher Reeve's right there, but I could see him having that kind of smile. And when later on when the boat crashes into the other boat, he looks over like, don't know what's going on over there, and she's just looking up at him. And later on when Lois and Clark are talking in the planet, and she's kind of daydreaming about Superman, you can see that same kind of look that we've seen her do in the movie. So they did a great job taking it where when you really needed to capture the essence, they captured the essence, and I absolutely love this, man. And again, artwork for me, it's close enough that I can see him, but I can also see their energies, and I'm like, yes.
Anything else you want to say about this?
I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat with it.
If you guys can tell, this gets a thumbs up from me.
I want to give a quick shout out to Batman 89 Echoes. Did you get a chance to read this yet?
No, I have not.
So it's the first issue of the next Batman 89 series. Again, another 6-issue miniseries. Again, we've got now Sam Hamm, who wrote the original Batman movie, back again doing a Batman story. It's got, again, it continues to further that Batman universe. There's been some time passage since the last one, and I really, really appreciated it. One of the things I want to shout out is during the time that you and I have last recorded, you had mentioned, I think in passing, that Comixology was moving over to Kindle. Have you done that yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What's your experience like? Good, bad, different? What do you like? What don't you like?
Well, the transition was actually very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, I'm an idiot when it comes to stuff like that. So that was a plus. It actually kind of smoothly transitioned over to iZilla. Yeah, that's about the good stuff. Now, I don't know. It's when Amazon first bought Comixology, there was that transition.
Sure.
And I had to get used to stuff. And the original Comixology to me is the best.
I agree.
And then when they became Amazology, I was like, okay, there's still some stuff. And now that I can only read it on a Kindle, for me, reading, I haven't lost that much. Then I'm like going, oh, this is horrible. I'll stop doing this. Now, there is one thing that is annoying me with Kindle, and maybe you can help me with this, or maybe somebody who's listening can say, Jim, you're an idiot. Here's what you need to do. I can't close a book. There's no option to close the book. So when I exit out of the book, it's still open at the very bottom. I have to open another book, to make that bottom portion disappear. I got a little thumbnail sitting right at the bottom middle of the reader, and the book isn't actually closed. And in the old way, I tap on it and I see options to close, and I close. I don't see an option to close unless I'm looking in the wrong spot.
I'm checking that right now, and I don't really have a good answer for you at the moment. I don't see a way to close it either.
Okay.
Don't have a good answer for you on that one. Other than, like you, it leaves in the bottom for me.
Right. So if anybody listening knows how to do that, please let us know. Because it doesn't completely bother me, but it does, just because of my OCD of, I want it closed. Why can't I close this thing? I spent probably an hour going through all the different things trying to figure out how to close it. Like, it's got to be here. There's got to be a close button. Where's it at? Going through the filtering, going through all this kind of stuff. And, and again, I figured out some stuff on how to do the downloading and filters and whatnot. And one of the things I do is when I purchase it or when I get the free stuff, because I'm Comixology Unlimited, I do the initial filter of all and unread. I download those books, and then I mark them all as read. So any new purchases come over as unread. So then I have to go to the downloaded section to see all the books that I haven't read yet, and keep up what we're going to, keep reading for, have ready for the show and stuff like that. But I had to do that last time with the first crossover. So, so I'm kind of used to doing it that way. But it's, again, I'm okay with it. I prefer the original, but I'm not hating on it so bad that I'll stop reading digital comics.
I liked a couple of things from it. The first thing is it behaves very similar to what we just had with Comixology, with the Amazology app, when you're talking about. So Comixology 2.0. The other piece that I really appreciated, I had certain books where I had progression, because they were omnibuses or things like that. Like I have, for example, let's use Mickey Mouse as an example. I have those newspaper strips that I've been reading the various volumes. So I'll read them along the way, and every so often they're like kind of my, to your steal one from you, the palate cleansers, right? It's nice to read something a little different. I have lots of books like that. I have Batman in the 50s, for example, that I'm gradually making myself through as well. Those are books that I have progression on. It kept the same progression, like it synced the progression. So my percentages were where they were. The pages that I left off on were where they were. So that part of the transition was very, very smooth for me. I don't love the way it manages series yet, if that makes any sense. Like being able to grab like the previous issues in the series.
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to. They have like a button at the bottom, or I should say a banner at the bottom that you click on for volumes and issues, and they're there, and it's easy enough to pull them up. I got used to Amazology, as you call it, and I was used to the way that worked, so that's going to be a change that I have to get used to. But overall, it doesn't behave, when you're reading an issue, doesn't behave a whole lot different than what you had before. So that part, I appreciated the fact that at least the sync is still in place with it. It's a change. At this point, I hope now what we're getting is, let's keep everything in here. I also like the fact that you can select comics from the top, comics and manga from the top, and be able to distinguish them from, because I have a Kindle, so I have a lot of books and things. I have a Kindle reader, actually. I like to read my books, novels and stuff on the Kindle reader. So I like this to just be comics. I like that I have the option to click on that and make it just my comics library that I'm looking through. That part is very welcome as well. I don't know if you've done any Kindle purchases or if that's a thing that you do. But for me, it's mostly, I want to just be reading the comic stuff. And it's nice for this to be able to let me put that in play.
Yeah, I've got a couple actual books, and it's nice that, again, I can do the filter on the books and do that,
I like the distinguishing between issues and volumes. When you're dealing with trades, collected trades versus a monthly ongoing book, it does have the ability for you to tap and pull up the different volumes in the case when it's trades. So there's some things I actually really like about this as part of the change so far. And there's some things that I'm like, I'm not really comfortable with yet. But for the most part, this one was okay.
Now I can get out of here.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. You prefer to contact us that way. RagingBullets.com is our show website. That's where I'll give you updates on upcoming episodes. We have a wonderful Facebook group community that we are proud to be a part of. We also feed into Twitter. We feed into Facebook. We want to connect with you in the ways that you want to connect with us. The About Us section of our show website is the way you can find out about how to connect with us on social media and gaming platforms. We love interacting with you. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seguin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
As always, DCBS has some great deals on some comic books, but there's also deals on apparel, on statues, on toys, on whatever possibly you could want as a geek. They have it there. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, once again, the deals of the week. Batman the Dark Knight Detective Trade Paperback Volume 8, $29.99, regularly 50% off, only $14.99. Danger Street Trade Paperback Volume 1, $19.99, regularly 50% off, only $9.99. And Seven Soldiers by Grant Morrison, the omnibus hardcover, $125, regularly 50% off, only $62.50. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. If you are a film fan, you can find me regularly on the movie podcast, Is It Jaws? So please feel free to check me out there. And our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about Amazon's attack and catch up with the Wonder Woman series. We will see you then.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim.
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean to buy that.
I think
Sean, Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.